Welcome to the Wooper Club League Season 17, Weeks 3 and 4 Power Rankings. With 4 out of 8 weeks in the books, we are halfway through the season, low-tier doubles. Let's see how teams are getting along. I'm your host, IllLogic. I'm the coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, SteveChuck, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
Hey, everybody.
Still got plenty of time before the trade deadline, so let's take a look at what some coaches are up to. And we're going to start off with the Wooper Boopers making even more trades. This is all of their transactions now used up. They are trading out the Espathra, Orthworm, and Dockspun in favor of my boy Slithering, plus Poltegeist and Fortress. It looked like it were some relatively major moves here on the surface, Steve, but what do they really do for the team?
Yeah, so as we talked about last time with their trades, moving away from that multiple psychic types, dropping yet another psychic type, swapping out for Slitherwing, getting some more physical offense, something their team was a little bit short on, kind of make teams respect the physical offense, maybe invest a little more in that defense, opening things up a little more for the Indeedee as a cleaner in the end with that special attack. Additionally, another big pickup here is the Fortress for hazard removal. That is something the Boopers had not previously had so far, or they had it to start, and then they traded away Gligar as a defogger, which, not fantastic. But now they've picked back up hazard removal. Something, Fortress is, maybe not the most double-focused mon, a lot better in singles, I would say, but something that you can reliably bring, pivot out, rapid spin, set some of your own hazards. It definitely has a niche that the team could take advantage of. And Poltegeist for just a great pickup here, kind of makes the points work out in the end with the other transactions. Gives a nice threatening option there for cheap, as well as of course that big shell smash option.
Yeah, I do really like the Slitherwing here. Paired with the Palmot gives some nice heavy offense against dark types, which would want to come against the Indeedee and now the Poltegeist as well. Starting to get something cooking here potentially for the Boopers. Next up, Calgary Corviknight. Well, it looks like Espathra will not be sitting out there for very long as Hoopa and Ariados are dropped in favor of the Espathra. And, oh boy, is that a tentacle, Steve?
That is in fact a tentacle, a very influential and important tentacle that will surely come to all of Greg's matches. But yeah, as soon as Espathra was available, Calgary hopped on that and signed it immediately, dropping their similarly priced psychic type Hoopa, who also was not working very well for them, picking up Espathra and doing what they needed to make the points at work, was to drop the low tier Ariados, losing that potential webs setter and picking up Tentacle, another T Spike setter, a spinner, but overall just a really cool guy.
He was pretty cool. Ariados' little brother Spinnerack was sitting there at 0 points. I did consider that at multiple points. But that's pretty interesting to see Tentacool here. And poor Hoopa, at least it will no longer be the Volcarona of the season, no longer able to be sacked for nothing this season. We've got one more transaction to go over here. The Hippo hides making a couple of moves, dropping the boy Bellybolt plus Houndoom in favor of Galvantula and Wigglytuff. More web option stuff going on here, but this time the hides are picking that up. What else is going on with them?
Yep, a big change here is notably the ground weakness. The team previously had a fairly large ground weakness. This, of course, swapping out two weaknesses for two neutralities brings the team to even overall to ground, making it a lot worse type into them. Notably, their top tiers are still weak to ground, so it is a little appealing, but less so. And of course, that webs option. And Wigglytuff has done amazing things in low tier seasons in the past. I recall fighting one for 200 turns. But competitive on a nice bulky mod, something that could sit out there, maybe provide some support, maybe provide some offensive pressure in the right situation.
Yeah, I'd still missing out on a couple of key resistances in there. Losing the Houndoom means they're down to one fire and ice resist, being only the Blastoise on their team. But this does help a decent bit, and it does give them an actual Dragon resist too in Wigglytuff. So some interesting shuffling around here for the hides. Looking to make something happen this season. Speaking of, we are going to move into the recaps here as we are going to start off Week 3 strong with the highly anticipated match between Newport Noctowls and Steve's Waterdeep Wobbuffets. It lived up to the billing. It is a 2-0 win for the Noctowls. Turn 1 Raikou Snarl is good, but the double up in Vivillon is even better to take it down, leading to another couple Snarls from Hydreigon, but it goes down to player of Jirachi as Steve takes the early lead. Infernape gets the revenge KO as Tinkaton sets up SD, meaning a double up into Swampert the next turn will take it down. Tinkaton Terrace Fairy, Granbull goes Steel, and they trade damage, but the Noctowls are in a good position, especially when Raikou trailblazes on Granbull to help outspeed things right after. Blaziken takes out Tinkaton finally, but Raikou is tanky and keeps snarling out damage at the very end where Steve may still have a shot. The Trailblaze means Raikou still outspeeds Blaziken and can take down the Chipped Chicken. Then as Noivern sets up Tailwind, Golduck has Rain Dance and survives the double up thanks to the previous Snarl, so Raikou can just keep snarling at Noivern and Zoroark to give the Noctowls the win, taking them to 3-0. Next up, what was once a one-sided beatdown has flipped as the Burbs may have become the kryptonite for the Bouffalant as of late, but my Bouffalant make a statement by getting the 4-0 win this time. Turn 1 Lycanroc brought low as Breloom protects the double up, but Torracat helps get the momentum back with some nice pivoting, and Cinderace Gunkshot is still doing a lot though, even at -2. Florges gets good chip, then on an important turn, Gunkshot and Braviary's Hurricane both miss. Lycanroc survives another Gunkshot, but Hamrock can finally get the first KO onto Braviary. Torracat with the good double switch in on a double up. Sandslash goes down for basically free as another layer of spikes goes up. Torracat brings Vikavolt down to Sashes at Electrowebs instead of setting up webs. There's the third layer of spikes as Torracat keeps cycling Intimidate and Parting Shots. Shaman gets up Tailwind as it and Hamrock get low, but Cinderace is still so fast even though it goes down, and Shaman goes down, and Hamrock go down with a Moonblast into Breloom. Terra Steel Hexers cannot take on the world, and the Bouffalant are back above 500. Next up, Summon County Psyducks are hot, but are cooled off by the Corviknight Clobberers who grabbed their first win of the season. Frostlass Icy Wind does so much damage, and combined with throws can take out Tornadus turn 1. Icy Wind and Heatwave take out Hippo too, but Mesprit does get up Trick Room, and now it's Wheezing Regigigas time. Or maybe not, as Heatwave burns, and Tauros lives to CC the Regigigas there. Frostlass goes down, but Heatwave is doing so much damage. Down goes Mesprit, down goes Wheezing. Terra Water Decidueye lives, but it's not breaking through Moltres or Glowbro. Down it goes, the Clobberers take a big win, 5-0. Next up, don't worry, this will cheer you up, Steve. The Corinth Phalanx keep on rolling by beating up the Seattle Steamrollers 4-0. It's a good turn 1 for Chad as Tauros Oko's Barraskewda, then takes out the Reflect with Raging Bull, but Skarmory got off the Iron Defense. Terra-fighting Tauros goes down to Terra-fighting Phalanx as Skarmory heals back up and gets off another Iron Defense. Then Uxie sets up Reflect again as Skarmory heals off a Bitter Blade. Uxie goes down by Body Press, KO's Beartic, then Oko's Obama Stone. Arperia takes down Saraledge. Body Press KO's Terrakion and KO's Crawdon. Oh, Chad, you gotta bring some special attackers. You can't always just freeze the Skarmory. The Phalanx win again. Next up, it's the Boulder Boulders and the Rock City Zigzagoons facing off, and the Experience wins out here with the Boulders getting a big 5-0 win. Turn 1, Terra Electric Discharge Porygon Z to give Raichu the Lightning Round boost, and Oko both Mienshao and Bombardier. Yeah, that's how this one's going to go. Crocodile barely hangs on and KO's Porygon, but Raichu's +1 Zerf is doing so much, except for the partner Goodra. Lucario's goes down to 2, Rotom goes down to 2, Meowstic goes down to that plus knockoff, just out of control. Halfway through, the Hippo Hides and Pikeville Pups square off, and the Pups grab their first win of the season. Turn 1 rocks go up as Toxapex very purposely liquidations into Gastrodon, boosting that special attack. Mudsdale gets poisoned, but at +2, Gastrodon is ready to go as Surf KOs Staraptor. Another one takes out Mudsdale and Gengar. Oh, that's a Destiny Bond to neat down goes Gastrodon, but Slowbro has clicked the Clam Mind button. Terra's Water and KO's Low Kicks. Oh boy, Toxapex goes down though. Goodra Terra's flying, and Espeon has 2 Calm Minds up. Is it the comeback? Mimikyu does big damage to Espeon, but Life 2 is helping to heal it back up. What's the plan? Cyclizar does still outspeed though. Knockoff doesn't quite KO, but the double up into Espeon will finally take it down, and Hoodra cannot carry this itself. The Pups behind their water offense will take this one. Next up, this is a good matchup. Akron Agrons and Calgary Corviknights are both looking to step on the accelerator this season, but it's Calgary that come out ahead. It starts off on the wrong foot with Tailwind and a missed Gunk Shot going against Swords Dance Gliscor and a Trick Room from Comfey. Yeah, and to make it worse, Hypercutter Gliscor ignores 2 Intimidates, and Mightyena goes down to a crit, and then Overqwil goes down 2, and then Gliscor KOs Sneasel as well, while goes Terra Grass to ignore the Sleep Powder from Venusaur. This is getting ugly. Rain goes up as Kingdra hangs on from dual Wing Beat and KOs Weavile, but another one KOs the Seahorse, and even though Illumise gets the Bug KO, it cannot win the 5v1. Greg Corviknights above 500. Next up, it's just a week of first wins. The Wooper Boopers start coming on strong with a win over the Close Combat Club. The Boopers get up rocks as Tailwind goes up for the club. Then how about some T-Spikes too? Rhydon doing a lot of damage next to Braviary, but the Boopers hanging on to pieces. Jumpluff gets off a Tailwind as it goes down, and now it's time. Terra Psychic, Expanding Force, Indeedee KOs Rhydon and Braviary. Now the club has to swap in on those hazards. Expanding Force KOs Alchemy, and even the Terra Dark Chandelure is thwarted by a good U-turn from Slitherwing. Even though Fortress goes down, it's just Hariyama and Cleavor. Can they do it? Well, down goes Garganacl, down goes Indeedee, and one hit to X's are okay, but Poltegeist with a good Shadow Ball to KO the Cleavor, and a couple good protects with some chip will finally bring down the Hariyama. A great game, but the Boopers are the victors. Next up, the Evergrande and Empoleons are trying to keep pace with the rest of the 2 O's, but the Rocky Mountain Cloisters join the party with their first win of the season instead. Starts off poorly with a classic turn 1 Heat Wave miss as Grafaiate goes down to Psychic, but it did get off Sunny Day, so the next Heat Wave does massive damage. Even as Terra-fighting Glastriade survives, it does go down the next turn with help from Gothorita trapping it, and Glowking, plus the free heal pulse. Emboar hangs on against Air Slash, and Rotom finally takes down Charizard, but now Trick Room has gone up against the Trick Room team. Snorlax takes out Emboar, but then it's Belly Drum time. Big man. Hydrapple KOs Lettuce, then heals up Snorlax with Pollen Puff while it cleans up the last couple of flying types with Ice Punch. Great to see the Lax put on a show. And finishing off week 3, the Cincinnati Incineroar are so here. Another win to push them to 3-0, but it was not straightforward. Gyarados setting up with help from Follow Me Magmar, but a good taunt, so now what? Well, Weezing swaps in to help Slacking, and Thunder Punch KOs. Scrafty is tanking hits too, and down goes Ambipom. Oh geez, the Terra Ghost Follow Me, Furret to immune Ditto Scrafty's close combat to allow it to go down to the original. A 6-3 lead for the Sharpedos. Gallade stops the bleeding with a couple knockoffs, and Registeel is Iron Defensing up with the Terra Water. Oh, we've seen this before, and it takes down the Scrafty too. Oricorio in, and down it goes to knockoff. Strange, but hey, at least Weezing lives. The Heavy Slam gets a big Willow on Registeel, which also lets Slacking KO the Gallade, though it takes big damage back. Magmar KOs the Weezing in exchange for its life. It's 2v1, but with Terra Water, Registeel is walling Inteleon, and with well-timed protects, what does Slacking do about it? Methodical win for the Incineroar, a 1-0 behind Mr. Reggie. That's it for week 3. Week 4 also starting off with a Wobbuffets match, this time Steve getting back on track over the Rocket City or Zigzagoons. Swampert gets up Rocks as the two Rockweak Mons swap in, and Bombardier gets a free KO on Decidueye with the Acrobatics before sticking up Tailwind, plus Pilliswind gets up Rocks while taking a couple hits, but when in doubt, click, Terra, Normal, Boom Burst. Noivern survives Rocks in an Ice Shard and KOs Pilliswind and a Lobomola. Then it's the Hyper Voice Aurora teaming up with Boom Burst, Noivern to KO Crook and Bombardier, then a Bitter Malice and one more Boom Burst. 3 double KOs take all 6 for Steve with a Normal and Ghost Spam at the end. Next match, the Akron Agrons are back on track with something unusual as they take down the Corviknight Clobberers. Turn 1, it's Weather Wars. Prankster Sunny Day is replaced by Prankster Rain Dance, but Sableye still takes 2/3 from Eruption. Sableye gives up the Weather War to trade Specs for Lagging Tail and some big chip, trading Tailwinds with Terraflying Altaria and a 4% Moltres combined to KO Gardevoir and Overcoil. Whoa, but then something very strange. The Akrons are going Trick Room with Hatchram. Look at the speeds on their team. And then Hatchram gets the Nuzzle KO on Moltres. Crazy momentum continues as Duraludon Oko's Bramblegast and another Nuzzle can halt Altaria's D-Dance setup. Typhlosion sacked, but we're nuzzling everything, and Hatchram is tanky and healing up everything while taking damage. Illumise gets Tailwind off before it goes down. Can Hatchram and Duraludon take it? Dark Pulse does huge damage to Globra. Altaria does favors with EQ to take out Tauros. Hatchram barely keeping Duraludon healthy enough with a bunch of life dues as it takes out the last 2 as well. A close one, the Agrons do pull through. Next match, a great matchup between my Buffalo Bouffalant and Zach Summit County Psyduck. It's the Psyducks who pull off the upset with their 3rd close win of the season. Turn 1, Torn and Decidueye team up to KO Shaman for free, and Hippo is helping to chip down Gardecuno and Florges, which helps High Horsepower Flamethrower from Cole and Sandchip to KO Florges right before he can get the Wish Heal, an early lead for the Psyducks. But here comes Hammerot with a Ceaseless Edge, and Torterra Oko's the Colossal. Then Torterra goes Terra flying to Oko Decidueye too, but goes to sleep from Yawn in exchange. Going for the 1-turn sleep? No, Torterra is snoozing for 3 turns as it and Hammerot are very low, though Terra Ground Torn does go down for its trouble. Last shot for Buffalo. Custap Hammerot out-prioritized by the Lycanroc, and I'm pulling on claims Torterra's life too, so when Gardecuno goes down and Magnezone is locked to do Electric move against a Hippo, it's game over. 2-0 to the Psyducks. Next match, a couple of big hapless teams, but the Route 1 Burbs grab their first win of the season over the Pikeville Pups. Big turn 1 Trailblaze and a Gastrodon for Cinderace, and the Slug goes down the next turn. Electabuzz protects Haxorus on setup for 1 turn, but not the next, as Mimikyu does take it out, but at least Cinderace can come back in and court change the webs back to the other side as they chip down everything. Mimikyu traded out for Cinderace, then Electabuzz Follow Me prevents Skeldridge from being healed up, focus down Slowbro, and then overwhelmed the last 2 bugs with some special offense. The Burbs are on the board. Next up, the Close Combat Club look back on track as they take down the Rocky Mountain Cloisters. Turn 1 Terra Dark Volbeat prevents Grafai's Prankster Taunt to get up Tailwind. Then a nice Encore to force that to keep going. All the while, Cleavor gets up Rocks and KOs Hydrapple. Heatwave Chandelure does great damage, but not enough to take out Snorlax, who can KO back with a couple of EQs. John keeps attacking into the Encore, protects, but eventually Charizard finally goes down, and that Volbeat is so annoying. Grafai swaps into the wrong neighborhood as it goes down to Medicham. Snorlax finally takes out Volbeat, but down it goes after some chip, and the team collapses shortly after. A good win for the club. Halfway through week 4 now, Newport Noctows deliver a big win over the Evergreen Empoleons, keeping them with a perfect record. Tinkaton takes early chip, Emboar survives Razor Show with a Pasho Berry, but Cloyster survives back with an early Focus Sash, and Flygon also survives with a Sash, but Tinkaton also survives with a Shaka Berry. All these items. Teams up with Infernape to KO Flygon and Emboar, and a great taunt to stop Trick Room from Glow King too. But maybe an overprediction as Brute Bonnet stays in on a Thunder Punch and puts Infernape to sleep while Tinkaton finally goes down to Psychic. Trevenant takes out the Bonnet with the X-Scissor, and then it's time for an old favorite with Terra Steel Hydreigon to live the Icicle Crash with ease. A double KO up will KO Galastria through the Terra even as the tree goes down, but I think Jimmy will take that trade. A double up into Glow King takes that down, and one last double up into Enamorous brings that down to the Noctowls in good control most of that one. Next up, a playoff rematch from last season. It's Greg's Calgary Corviknights who win this time over Chad's Seattle Steamrollers. It's a Tentacool week as it gets up T-Spikes turns 1 and 2 while Weavile Oko Cerulege with ease. Chad brings up the Tentacool and Delphox low, but Heatwave takes care of the 2 ice types on the other side, no problem. A couple more Heatwaves take care of Taurus and Rotom. Wochen can Terra Water to barely survive, but it goes down too, and a quick, convincing win for Calgary. Next match, San Jose Sharpedos do claim a big win here over the Boulder Boulders. Slacking is nuzzled, but it's clicking Rock Slide to do good damage. Set up those T-spikes, but Slacking is already here. Raichu goes down, and Trick Room Porygon Z. Wow, Hex is pretty good damage from Spiritomb, but it is brought low. The Corviknight is setting up alongside it too. Spiritomb brought down from the damage output, but Scrafty's down too. This Weezing is hanging around way too long, living a couple +1 Iron Heads, then Bravebird and Oricorio doesn't even KO, so Salazzle goes down too. Porygon down to Weezing as well, while Corviknight tries to heal up. Oricorio down, but it caught up a Tailwind, and Inteleon is just too strong. The Terra Fire from Corviknight coming back to bite it for that choice as it goes down, and Inteleon plus Weezing take out Conkeldurr. The Boulders never seem to get going, so Weezing controlled the game for the Sharpedos. Next up, the Cincinnati Incineroar also keep their undefeated season alive as they best the Hippo Hides. The Hides come out swinging with a Turn 1 Sticky Web and Shell Smash, but Overheat and Energy Ball get the double KO anyways. Mudsdale down to another Energy Ball, getting the Incineroar the early lead, but Follow Me won't stop Gengar Sludge Wave from KOing Arbala, but now it's setting up as Hydra is dishing out some damage, plus a nice Encore and a Drift Limb from Gengar is neat, followed by a double KO from Sludge Wave. Toxtricity and Gallade live Sludge Wave, and it's a nice Sacred Sword and Overdrive combo to KO the Terra Flying Hydra. Espeon's the last one left. It'll go down to Sludge Bomb and Waterfall as the Incineroar walk away. Winners. And finally, the Corinth Phalanx try to join the Noctowls and Incineroar at the top, but are toppled by the suddenly hot Wooper Boopers. Early rocks and spikes from the Boopers as we try to decipher how good hazards are really. Milotic takes a ton of damage, but brings down Magmortar. Rhyperior KOing Milotic and Fortress under Tailwind. Garganacl goes down in exchange for most of Kilowattrel's health, letting the Scarf and DD come in and KO with Expanding Force. Rhyperior down 2 in the double up. Right, Barraskewda is the next Expanding Force victim, leaving just Umbreon and Phalanx. Mux lands the Toxic into Umbreon, and Slitherwing preys on the -1 defense Phalanx. One more CC KOs Umbreon 2 as the Boopers are suddenly the team that nobody wants to face. And that'll wrap us up for week 4 as well. Let's take a look at the power rankings here. We're down to 2 undefeated teams. And Steve, let's go over these power rankings. What are we looking at?
Yes, so here we are at the power rankings. Currently, we have the Newport Noctowls at number 1, Cincinnati Incineroar at 2, Waterdeep Wobbuffets at 3, Summit County Psyducks at 4, Calgary Corviknight 5, Corinth Phalanx 6, Wooper Wooper 7, and Buffalo Bouffalants at 8. Right now, they are sorted a little bit by their record, but we do have a couple groups here. First, 1 and 2, of course, as the undefeated teams are kind of up by themselves. We feel the Noctowls have, of course, the historical better performance as well as against their opponents. They have some better ones, notably the number 3 Waterdeep Wobbuffets here in week 3. So we're giving the Noctowls the slight edge there. Of course, we'll have to reevaluate as these teams keep going if they both can stay undefeated. But, it's hard to not put the Noctowls at 1. We try and find every chance we can, but there's not many of them. Yeah, going on then to the next grouping, which is just the Waterdeep Wobbuffets at 3. Of the 4 3-1 teams, the Wobbuffets are the only team to have lost to teams ranked above them. All of the Psyducks, Corviknight, and Phalanx all have lost to teams ranked below them on power rankings or having a worse season. So, we kind of saw a little bit of a gap there, at least enough to kind of give the Wobbuffets a clear 3 at this point. Of course, then the next grouping would be the remaining of the 3-1 teams, the Psyducks, the Calgary Corviknight, and the Corinth Phalanx. All of them at 3-1, all of them with losses to teams that have worse records. The Psyducks with their loss to the 1-3 Corviknight Clobbers, Calgary with their loss to the San Jose Sharpedos, and the Corinth Phalanx with their loss to the now hot Wooper Boopers. Ranking here, the Psyducks we feel have been a very consistent team, getting a lot of those close wins so far, and it really has come down to their ability to just win every match. The one match they had a kind of a bad matchup, it seemed, went in and maybe some bad RNG and lost to the Clobbers, but otherwise they've been fairly consistent, getting some big wins against historically strong coaches like the Bouffalant, which kind of pushed them up. Meanwhile, Calgary and the Phalanx, they have wins notably over the same 3 teams, being the Cloisters, the Agrons, and the Steamrollers. Those 3 teams, of course, not doing spectacular at the moment, so their wins, not being notable. They do have losses to teams that are doing better, but we felt that little bit of an edge was enough to put them slightly below the Psyducks here on the rankings. We gave the edge to Calgary due to a couple reasons. One, while having a very similar schedule, Calgary has amassed a much higher differential, which could be notable in the end here, but also very importantly, Calgary is on a hot streak. After losing week 1, they have won 3 straight, which is similar to what they did last season. And win 1, we never take them. Lose 1, we never take them seriously for the rest of the season. But they keep winning, stay in that conversation. as a top 8 team, but never in that conversation for the very top spots. So they're on a similar trajectory now. We'll see if they're able to keep it up and get all the way to 7-1. And then, of course, the Phalanx here, having just lost to the Boopers, maybe losing a little bit of momentum, but we'll see where that leads them. And then, of course, we get to the Wooper Boopers and Buffalo Bouffalant, another small grouping we have here of the 2-2 teams. There are a number of other teams we could have also decided to place here. Teams like the Empoleons that were previously undefeated and now are down to 2-2. Teams that have wins over the teams above them, like the San Jose Sharpedos. But we ended up going with these teams here. The Boopers, after losing their first two, making all their trades, have a new team, and it seems to be working out quite well for them, getting some big wins here and, climbing the ranks a little bit. Also notably, their losses are coming to teams that are up above in the power rankings, the Wobbuffets and Psyducks. Some good opponents who are doing well so far this season. So, losing to those, then figuring out your team and winning the rest, that sounds like a fantastic recipe. Similarly, for the Bouffalant, don't have all the trades, but in terms of their opponents, they lost to the Incineroar and Psyducks. Some good wins along the way, and just their historical record, kind of gives them that edge to secure that number 8 spot. Do you have any other comments you'd like to make about the rankings, Nate?
Yeah, you'll see in the next slide here that there are a bunch of 2-2 teams, but it really does feel like these are the 8 teams that stand out quite a bit more to me than just about anybody else here. Yes, there are the Calgary Corviknight and Corinth Phalanx who lost 2 teams below them, and Psyducks lose 2 teams out of the rankings as well. But these 8 teams seems like they're the ones that have shown the most upside so far. To be able to win in the playoffs and potentially the whole thing. So I feel pretty good about including these 8 specifically on the list here. Even if I barely squeak in there, I'll still take it, right? There is actually quite a bit to talk about in the standings here as well. Looking here, I'll go all the way down to 13 here with the 2-2 teams. 7 through 13, all 2-2. A couple things I want to talk about here, Steve. The differentials are all over the place. I love seeing the Wobbuffets and Corviknight. They're 3-1 plus 12, and the Psyducks also 3-1, but they're down at plus 1. And you see that the Wobbuffets and Corviknight's differentials are better than the teams ahead of them, and Psyducks worse than most of the teams below them. Plus some good differentials from the 2-2s. We have all these teams, 7 2-2 teams, none of them with a differential below 0, which is fascinating. But the other point I think to make is there are a lot of 2-2 teams already creeping up a little high there. Bouffalant at 7 with a 2-2 record out of 20 seems pretty high there. For those unfamiliar, the way our playoff system works, you'll make the playoffs if you have the same record as the number 8 team. So if the number 8 team ends up being 5-3, then everyone with the record 5-3 below them makes it. And similarly, if they're a 4-4 record, everyone below them that has that 4-4 record makes it as well. Steve, coming into the season with 20 coaches, it seemed like it would be much more difficult for a 4-4 team to make it up to number 8. But with the parity that we have right now, that seems a little bit more likely. Any of those catch your interest here?
Yeah, especially regarding the final standings for playoffs. I certainly agree. They're coming into the season. I was very much expecting 4-4 to not make it. I was leaning more that it might end up being more of a 6-2 that needs to get in, let alone 5-3 or 4-4. But as we've seen so far, certain coaches being able to win or lose any given match. As of now, having this very wide middle here at 2-2, we could very easily see when it gets to the end, those top 8. Especially of these 13 teams, and even some of the 1-2 teams that might be able to push their 1-3 teams that might be able to push their way in a very large playoffs. It all comes down to if these top teams can consolidate the wins amongst them and win all the games they quote should, or if these teams who are in the middle fringe playoff teams are able to get enough wins to drop that 8 down to 4-4 and get something that ends up being like a 14, 15, maybe 16 team playoffs, which would be insane.
Yeah, we've seen some 7-1 teams confidently walk through the season and then suddenly have to play a play-in game in the playoffs there in that first round and drop it. That could be very devastating. So wonder what this will look like with the playoffs. And again, we are halfway through, so playoffs coming up a little more soon than you might think. We even have some clinchings next time we talk about this. Speaking of, we should see how we're going to get to our next time. It's going to do it for weeks 3 and 4. So we should talk about weeks 5 and 6. And boy, we have some great matches lined up here. A couple definitely catch my eye here in week 5. Steve, what are you looking at?
So a couple too that I'll point out right now. Some of the teams that were on our power rankings going up against it. The Wobbuffets and Psyducks are current 3 and 4, both 3-1 teams going at it this week. So that should be a fantastic matchup. Another one between our top 8 teams, the Noctowls versus the Phalanx. Phalanx getting another chance to play a great game here against the Noctowls. If the Noctowls are able to keep their undefeated streak going, or if someone is able to dethrone them this season.
And on the other side there's some cool matches here between teams that are not at or near the top necessarily, but similar records here. The last two matches, you see Wooper Booper, Severin, and Polions, and Close Combat Club, Boulder Boulder, so both matches between 2-2 teams. And being able to go above 500 and below 500 is kind of a big deal. Getting that third loss right now, remember, there's still a good chance 5-3 is the cutoff needed to make playoffs. So getting a third loss already, needing to win out, getting some pressure on there could be a big deal. Similarly, hey, how about the Burbs and Clobberers? We didn't really talk about them all that much, but they're both 1-3, both teams that have had historically pretty good, darn good seasons before. But one of them is going to drop to 1-4 here between to a couple of pretty good teams. I wonder what that's going to look like. I wonder if a team that can win that kind of match can suddenly get some momentum going into the final stretch of the season. So keep your eye on that one too, potentially. And finally, week 6 coming up. Oh, Steve, again?
Yep, we will be playing once again, and of course, that is always a highlight match when your power ranking co-hosts go at it. Bouffalant and Wobbuffets, week 6. So mark your calendars for that one. Should be exciting. Some other notable matches, some other top teams playing each other: Noctowls and Calgary. If the Noctowls are able to make it through week 5, make it through the Phalanx, well, they have another top team in the Calgary Corviknight coming at them, and another chance for them to try and maintain and really solidify that top spot on the power rankings. What other matches are catching your eye?
I have to look at the Boopers yet again. 2-2 versus 2-2 in the previous week could help get them a little bit more momentum, but it's the hottest team. Hey, how about you try a real test here with the Cincinnati Incineroar? That could be a real fun one. Incineroar may be facing their first real test after week 1 here with the Wooper Roopers. That could be a blast. And depending on the way that some matches go, hey, maybe we expect the Phalanx to lose to the Noctowls. I wonder if they can bounce back against the Boulders there, who are also coming off of a very big game there against another 2-2 team. The couple teams that could be fighting for momentum here going into the final stretch. Phalanx Boulders, one to look out for. That's going to do it from us here. Again, we are halfway through Season 17 of the Wooper Club League in low-tier doubles. This has been a crazy season, all sorts of upsets, a lot of parity going on here. The league is better than ever, and the matches are better than ever too. So don't forget to go check us out all over the channel here. We'll see you back here for the weeks 5 and 6 power rankings and recap as we are getting set for playoffs by that point. We'll see you here soon.